Get into the game with Garden Swartz Team Sales. They have everything you need, from screen printing, embroidery, and digital printing services, high school letterman jackets, and all high school and club uniforms, and individual and team apparel with the most reliable brands like Speedline, Rollins, and Wilson. And don't forget to check out the latest F7 Shut helmet. It's all at Garden Swartz Team Sales. Give them a call, 505-884-1234. Garden Swartz Team Sales.
Hey, welcome to the Steve Davis Show. Special guest today is Jim Bill Annucci, host of the Jim Bill Annucci Show on 101.7 The Team. And
conveniently named.
And you can remember that.
Right.
You got it down, huh?
Keeps it simple.
Well, you know, welcome back to Albuquerque, first of all.
I appreciate that.
And then also thanks for sitting with me at the Lobo game and introducing yourself. And I got the Jim Bill Annucci signature on my wall, so anybody wants to come by the Steve Davis,
there you go.
Come to the office, come in and check his signature
Probably
out.
Sell that for 50 cents on eBay. No, it's fun sitting next to you guys at the games. We have some good talks. So I like that whole press group that we sit with up there. There's a bunch of good guys.
You know,
and women. Yeah, it's fun.
And it's actually nice to see the game and right in front of your eyes and see things materialize. I think that's what gets me, is to see, one, how athletic the players are, how big the players are, and I can't play no more. I can't play with those guys anymore.
And they're great seats. And you know what amazes me? I go to every home game because I don't consider it work to watch a basketball game, and they're fun games. Men's and women's games are great, and I see the empty, press seats, and I'm like, why wouldn't you go?
Well, you said something about, work and everything, and, I think what you do is not work. I mean, it's more of a passion, and I think, you bring that energy and everything that you do, and it's more of just bringing yourself.
Yeah, when I left my engineering job 32 years ago, it wasn't to be miserable. I mean, I thought I just wanted a fun job, and I would say it's been mostly fun for the last 3 decades. I really have no complaints.
Well, it's interesting as I learn on my own shows. I sat with you one time. I know all about your 14 years in Albuquerque and being a great radio host and talk show host and on KOB. But I didn't realize that really you were a comedian. I mean, that's how you started out.
Yeah, after when I graduated.
You met with, and you had some top people that you were with. So, I mean.
Anybody who was famous in the 80s and early 90s, I'm pretty much friends with. Because I was on the road for 5 years. I started doing open mic nights in 87, and I became a professional touring comedian in 88. I won a big contest, and the club started offering me work, so. I was on the road for about 5 years in the late 80s, early 90s. So anybody who was big back then, Foxworthy, Bill Engvall, Ron White.
Tim Allen, right?
Tim Allen I worked with, Drew Carey. I opened up for George Carlin, Dennis Miller. I mean, I was out there just hanging out with all these guys. We were riding around. Me and Foxworthy used to ride around in my 91 Honda Civic hatchback from gig to gig. I worked with Brian Regan, the late great Bill Hicks. I mean, all kinds of people that I just got to hang out with, have lunch with, go to the mall, go to movies with, go to ball games with. And I think that's why I became, good at being a talk show host, is just hanging around these guys, because they were just so interesting as far as just making conversation, which is, pretty much what a talk show host does. So I learned a lot of tricks from hanging out with those guys, as far as being funny. And
then how did you get into the radio?
Well, I got tired of being on the road because, I was doing 300 shows a year. I was 50 weeks.
You said most of those were in the Midwest?
Started out in the Midwest, then the South, and then as I got better, I was getting gigs in Vegas. And I thought, then I moved to Los Angeles for a year because I was a freelance writer for Jay Leno. And I spent a year in Los Angeles trying to make something happen. And that was the early 90s, and I just realized there was hundreds of guys out there that were just as funny as me, who were trying to get TV shows and all this stuff. And I just realized the line was just way too long. Like, if anything was going to happen, if at all, it was going to be years and years and years and years down the road. And I didn't want to be a starving comedian in Los Angeles for 10 years, because by that time I was already like 29 years old. So I was listening to talk radio. I think it was KFI Los Angeles. There was a big talk station. And I thought, I can do that. You know, I thought I'd be good at that. Because the comedian friends always told me I was funnier sitting around talking than I was on stage. And I thought, well, isn't that what a talk show host does? You're just talking, you know. So then I moved back to Vegas, and nobody would hire me. So there was an infomercial.
So you were just kind of doing whatever you had to do?
I was driving a limo and doing stand-up. That's what I was doing to make money. Yeah, very glamorous. Had a little hat. And I found some AM station that brokered time. They mostly did infomercials for vitamins and whatnot, and financial guys and, you know, those stations. And I said, how much does it cost to buy a show? And the lady who owned the station at the time said, it's $150 an hour. I go, well, I can afford that. So I said, how about I do Thursday from 4 to 6 in the afternoon? I'll pay you $300. She said, oh, okay. She said, what are you selling? I said, nothing. I said, I'm just going to do a talk show. She's like, well, so I don't care as long as you pay. So then I went out and found people to.
So did you have an idea of what your talk show was going to be? You just
no clue.
No clue.
No. I found some friends that, I found like 6 friends to give me $50, sponsors. And I did live reads for them.
You could have them call in and make them feel good.
And I swear I was just making it up as I went along. I didn't know how to sell, but I said, well, it's $300. I'll just find 6 people to each give me $50, and I'll do their advertisements on the show. And then I just went in there with no clue. And I said, this is Jim Villanucci, phone lines are open. The number is, I remember the phone number, 702-796-1230. I believe that was the number. And the phone started lighting up. And I just said, you're on the air. And I just started like goofing on people who were calling in, just instinctively, because I was a comedian. They would ask me a question, and I'd like give them some smart alecky answer and go back and forth. And then I got done, and I went back to the office, and she goes, you're really good. And I go, yeah. I go, was that okay for my first time? She goes, that was your first time doing a talk show? It was my first time on radio. I mean, I'd been a guest on radio shows when I was a comedian, you know, morning radio and stuff, but I'd never hosted a show. And she said, if that was your first time, she said, you're going to be just fine. She goes, that was good.
Well, Jim, let's go to the Dream Style Top 10 Plays of the Week. And
okay.
Come back and pick up where you just left off.
All right. Thank you, Steve.
By Deja Sandoval. Ingram, little crossover, step back, bang! It's stolen away by Garcia, up and underneath for the roll. Valencia on the baseline, look at this! And the two-handed. Here's the steal. And look out. It's showtime. Patterson! Put it down!
Ramos, they pick up Ramos. He gets right past Smith. Steps into a 3. Ramos hits! And a quick timeout from Adrian Ortega. Not a lot of people do that, but kind of with you on that. Okay, the lead's back to 3, 2.9. They get into Ramos quickly.
Better get
Ramos
on him.
Gonna get one up from half court. It'll count. If it goes, Brian, it went.
And here's Valencia. He's going to go strong. Put it down on the one hand.
Absolutely rejected
Look
Gaxiola
out,
on the
look
spin.
out.
Here comes Jalen on the hammer job in transition.
The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates, and higher wages. Responsible for the North-South All-Star Games, statewide Coaches Award Program, and providing multiple professional development opportunities for New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number one. Cover it with green stuff, one scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
Hey, welcome back to Steve Davis Show. We got Jim Billanucci, the host of the Jim Billanucci Show on 101.7 The Team. Is that, am I got enough enthusiasm?
No, it's good.
I come in strong with that?
Good sales job. Yeah, 4 to 7, Monday through Friday.
Oh, I forgot to put 4 to 7.
That's all right.
I can't read it. See, I'm not good enough to see both. And I can't do two things at once. Like in basketball, I couldn't, chew gum and dribble at the same time.
I think people instinctively know I'm the afternoon guy in town.
Well, so we just left off where you're in Vegas. You got your first radio show
that I paid for.
That you paid for. And,
yes.
And now how did you get from there to here?
Okay, so
or back to here and back to there.
Once again, just kind of making it up as I went along. I did the show that I paid for about 2 months.
I got one question before you start.
Go ahead.
Now, on your first show, did you have people actually call in? Did you, or was was like you said it was a call-in show? Did you have people actually come in?
I just assumed that I was naive, but I just assumed that you always got calls, and for whatever reason, I did, because whoever was listening to the Vitamin show that was on before me, there was just enough people who were still listening that when I gave out the phone number, like 4 lines lit up, and I was like, I just assumed that was always the case. Well, I found out later it's not.
No, that's why I brought that question up. You should start out cold.
It's an interesting question, yes, because what if I hadn't gotten any calls that first day? I might have quit. I might have went, well, this is not fun.
Well, yeah, this is not fun, and you have $300 that you're putting out.
Or I've had talks with other comedians about this. What if the first night I did an open mic night at the Cincinnati Funny Bone, August 25th, 1987. What if I had bombed that night? Would I have quit? There's a good chance that I would, I tried and I wasn't good and I quit, But I got lucky and did good the first night. I got lucky my first day on the radio that I got calls. I got lucky that I knew what to say in response to whatever they were asking me about. I was glib, So, there's been a lot of, in my whole career, there's been a lot of fortunate happenstance.
So, you start there. How long did you stay there? And then
2 months, and then I put together some tapes, as we did back in the day, and I went to the 50,000 watt station, KDWN in Las Vegas, which was the mom and pop station back then. And I went to the owner, and I said, "Here's my tape and my resume," and she said, this is on a Monday, she said, "I just let somebody go last night." She said, "Are you available to start doing weekends for me?" And I went, "Yeah, sure, why not?" So I started doing weekends on the 50,000 watt station 6 to midnight with a bunch of infomercials and sports and, you know, how it was back in the day. Just a bunch of mishmash of a 6-hour shift. And then somebody else left, and then I was Monday through Friday, 6 to midnight. And then the guy that came in at midnight was Art Bell, right before he got famous. So, I mean, how lucky is that? I get to be his opening act right before he gets famous. And he was one of my first mentors in the business. So, I mean, that's just lucky. I don't know how else to say it. I mean,
So how did KOB find you then?
well, I worked at the Art Bell
Did you
station.
say you don't have
Yeah.
I mean, you let us know that you don't have an agent, and
Right.
and then that's kind of hard, you know, without having an agent, and
Right.
just all of a sudden you're from Vegas to Albuquerque. I mean, there's got to be some connection, something. How'd that happen?
I did the Art Bell station for 3 years. I went to San Diego for a year. And then I went back to Vegas and was on a Hot Talk FM station for 3 years. And then that station got sold. Then I was selling cars in Vegas for a couple, 2-3 months. And then the KKOB job opened up. And a guy who used to be our consultant for the Hot Talk station was also consulting or vice president for Citadel at the time. And he said, there's a really good job for you. I think you'd be perfect for in Albuquerque. I said, well, I'm selling cars, so I'm on the next plane. I'm going to try to get this job. And they brought me here August 2nd, 99. And I don't think a lot of people know this. My first week on the air, I didn't have the job. I was just auditioning. But I acted like I had the job because that's kind of how I operate. And that was it. I was auditioned for a week, and then August 9th, they said, you're full-time now. It's your job.
And correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm just playing. Is that kind of when you met Joe O'Neill? I mean, is this the
Right.
thing?
Joe turned out to be my top sales guy at KKOB. I met Joe in August of 1999, yeah. And we became fast friends.
And still are. So
He's been my best friend for 20 years.
Well, that, you know, that's
Through good times and bad,
yeah.
Joe's always been my best friend, yeah.
Well, that's neat, because that's when I kind of started knowing Joe, because people didn't know that, you know, he'd be doing disc jockeys at Dirty Bourbon and in places like that, and I'd see him every week, and he started in Del Norte Fitness working out. And
He's one of those guys, you know what I mean? A very rare individual. He told me 15 years ago that he was going to buy a radio station and hire me. And you know, people say stuff like that, and you go, yeah, right, whatever. Well, 15 years later, he's the owner of a radio station, and he hired me. So he does what he says, you know, which is kind of rare in our business.
So going back to, you know, you got to Albuquerque, Cowboy, great career, 14 years.
Right.
And then you moved on.
Yeah. Well, that's a story that most people don't know. I didn't want to leave Albuquerque ever because I realized how good I had it here. I mean, I felt like I was mayor. I mean, it's like I was here.
You build your clientele up, you talk to people.
People just embraced me here so much, more than Vegas, more than San Diego, more than Portland. They just embraced me here, and I just felt loved, and I'd never wanted to leave. And I tried to make this move from KKOB to ESPN 6 years ago. We had it all planned out. I think I was going to do the time slot before Bob. And we had it all planned out. We were going to do it. And I had a one-year non-compete at Cumulus, which is about Citadel. And I kind of thought they were going to let me out of it because they did a whole bunch of things when my contract was about to expire that led me and my lawyer to believe the contract was sort of void.
Right.
But then they enforced the non-compete and said if I went to work anywhere in town for a year, they would sue me and all my future children. And, you know, it was a bad situation. So I told Joe, I said, I have to leave town. You know, they're obviously not going to let me work for you. So that's why I went to Portland and worked for Milt McConnell, who was my GM down here back in the day.
I mean, so you've got it, like, you've been to the Midwest, you've been to the West Coast.
Pacific Northwest,
yeah. West Coast, Pacific, and
Yeah.
and now you're back to Albuquerque, and how that, I want to save that, actually. I want to
Okay,
say
sure.
that. Let's save
That's
that.
the big tease.
Big tease. Let's save that. Yeah, let's say that. And
It's a good story. It's a good story.
When we come back
Yeah.
in the next segment, we'll come back with that. All right?
Thank you.
It's that time of the year, sports fans. It's the 10th annual Garden Swartz Great Southwest Track and Field Indoor Classic. It's February 9th in 2019. The best athletes from across the nation come together for one event. Check out more information at GreatSouthwestTrackandFieldClassic.com.
Don't sacrifice quality of flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
The Barley Brew, proud sponsor of Proview Networks for over 9 years, is pleased to introduce Black Iron Catering. From weddings and family reunions to birthdays and office parties, Black Iron Catering is perfect for any event. Contact Jamie at 505-459-8259 and book your event today. Black Iron Catering. Let us bring our kitchen to you.
Don't forget, every Proview Network sporting event is on sale at our DVD store. Go to www.proviewNetworks.com to buy your DVD today.
Hey, welcome back to the Steve Davis Show. We have Jim Billanucci, host of the Jim Billanucci Show, and 4 to 7,
That's right.
Monday through Friday.
That's right.
See, I did good. I'm coachable.
You're very coachable, and you're a very good host. From one host to another, you're very good at this.
Well, you know, I have a lot of questions. I mean, I'm not one of these hosts, as you know, that I really don't dig or try to pry anything. But you come to Albuquerque and
Right.
how does it feel to follow Bob Brown? Talking to you, you've been before great people
Right.
like that, but Bob Brown, I don't know that it goes back to John Wooden when he quit,
Right.
or retired, I would say, that I wouldn't want that job.
I'll tell you what was intimidating about it. When I went to Portland, when I got forced out of Albuquerque in 2013, when I went to Portland to work for KXL, which is a big station, we had hundreds of thousands, I think they have 350,000 listeners right now up there. Big station. I replaced Glenn Beck, and it was awful. I mean, when you're the new guy replacing Glenn
Right. I mean,
Beck,
you're in
it's
a no
awful.
way. Yeah.
People hate you for you don't take it personal. They just don't like the new guy because they like the old guy for 10 years. Glenn Beck had been on KXL for 10 years. And I'm this new guy, so obviously they're going to feel offended. So for about 4 days, it was just nothing but, and then by about Thursday, people were like, this new guy's okay, we'll give him a chance kind of thing. So when I was going to come down here and replace Bob, I thought, it's going to be all over again. Bob has a ton of credibility. He was on radio here for 10 years in my time slot. He was on TV for, I believe, 18 years. And I said, I'm replacing this beloved individual, same as what happened in Portland. It's just going to be a hard couple weeks. And I think what Bob gave the station was a ton of credibility because he's has a high stature.
Well, he's personable. I mean,
Yeah.
and he's been.
I'm more of like a rodeo clown. So I thought people might be a little offended that Mr. Credibility is being replaced by Mr. Rodeo Clown, and they were. But then they got over it, and they were like, this guy's okay, It takes people a couple weeks to get my sense of humor because it's sort of unique and sarcastic and different. But it all worked out, and Bob has been nothing but gracious to me. He helped me. I saw him a couple days ago. He said he was on his way to Hawaii or something. I mean, Bob's living the life right now. I trade places with him in a second. He's traveling, and he's tanned, and he just looks like he's having a great time.
So with that being said, I guess that call from Joe, I guess it's something that 4 years ago didn't work out, and you get this phone call. So how did that happen? I mean, because there's a lot of curiosity that you were hired and then you didn't show me.
Sure. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Well, I went to Portland, and I was there for a little over a year. And as you know, the winters up there are awful. Worse than Cleveland, worse than any place I ever lived. The sun, you literally don't see the sun for 18 hours a day. It's like Alaska.
Depression. I mean,
and I tend to be one of those people who is highly affected by seasonal affective disorder they call SAD. And I got SAD in Portland. And I told my boss at the time, who was also a good friend of mine, I said, I can't live up here. I go, I'm gonna have, psychological problems. Even though I was getting great ratings and I was doing good, I go, I need to go somewhere where there's sunshine or I'm gonna lose my mind. So he understood, and he helped me get a job in Vegas. So I moved from the big station in Portland to the big talk station in Vegas, and I was doing that for a little over a year. And then I just came to loathe doing politics anymore because, as you know, these last couple of years, it's more divisive and hateful. And I don't care what side you're on. And I don't even care. I don't even want people to know what side I'm on anymore. I mean, people know what I was on KKOB. I was a slightly right of center Republican. I was never a wing nut. I was kind of a Domenici kind of guy. I was a Gary Johnson kind of guy. I was kind of moderate in a lot of ways. So the politics got so crazy, and you almost had to be a far right-wing nut to survive on talk radio. And I could not pretend to be one of those guys. So we decided that I would no longer do that. And I decided to take some time off to figure out what I was going to do. And it turned into about a 2-year vacation. I spent a lot of time playing poker. I cashed in 2 World Series of poker tournaments. And then Joe, when Bob Brown and his wife decided that they were going to retire, because I guess she had a government job with a nice pension and stuff, and she wanted to retire, and so they decided to retire. Joe called me and he said, the afternoon show's coming available, would you be interested? And I said, yes, I would. So that was kind of how that happened.
Well, that's you talk about I
Lots.
think and relationships.
Sure.
I mean, you go back to you just never know who you meet when you're doing all these
Always
things.
be nice to everybody because you don't know who's
I love
gonna-
what you just said right there because you just don't know who you're talking to or who
You just don't
may
know.
make a help you.
How did I know my sales guy was going to own a radio station? I didn't know that.
He told you.
Well, yeah,
He told
5
you.
years after he was my. But yeah, I just knew I liked him. And so we had a relationship. I didn't think it was ever going to turn into this. When I met Art Bell, we were both struggling hosts, not making a lot of money. I mean, we were both making 20-something thousand a year when I met Art Bell. I didn't know he was going to be famous. But I liked Art, and we got along, and he helped me. So I've always tried, and I'm not saying I have harmonious relationships with everybody, because there are a few haters out there. But
you kind of took that role on when you I mean, that's what
I
you do,
try
right?
to always mend fences and have good relationships with people, because I found that you just don't know, especially in this business. I mean, you could be president of a network someday. How would I know? You don't know. I mean, weird things happen.
Well, Jim, we watch you Monday through Friday,
Right.
Or listen to you,
Right.
Listen to you Monday through Friday, 101.7 The Teams. I want people to know what a great person. This is one of my better shows. Just not knowing you and
How are we doing for time? Because I want to make sure
We got 10 seconds.
I want to thank Joe Neal and David Dominguez and Sal Ortiz and Robert Mailer and all the people back there who support me.
All right. Well,
And I hope I didn't forget anybody.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.